Yo, what is going on? And welcome to another episode of the Urban Pitch Podcast, a beautiful game of life, part of the Believe Network. I'm Ramsey Abushala, editor-in-chief of UrbanPitch.com. To my left, Julio Matarosa, Bridget Flores, co-executive directors of Vibes. What's going on, y'all? How we doing?
Vibing this weekend. We're back. Thank God.
Yeah, we were just coming back off of a skiing trip. I think we were the only ones that didn't go skiing
All
on the
three
trip.
of us,
So
it didn't fit our budget.
Right. We're being
I used
fiscally
to.
responsible in
I don't recover. If I fall
2026.
down, I ain't getting up.
Yeah. But we're back. We're recovered. It's a Thursday night. We have a very special guest in the
Special
building, a
guest.
repeat guest
Right.
returning, making his return to the Urban Pitch
Let's
podcast. 11-year pro, played overseas, played MLS, the very first homegrown player for the LA Galaxy, LA's very own Tristan Bowen. What's going on, man? So good to have you back on the show.
What up, people? It's good to see y'all, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah, a cool minute, but we're so excited to have you back on. And you know, we got a lot to talk about, but
Definitely. Like, I want to ask you a question. I just want to bring it back to your LA Star days, in K-Town.
Let's go.
You playing in the after-school program in Cahuenga. How did that help you playing LA Stars, playing in that after-school program, taking the bus to Jamaican parties? I did my research. Your mom screaming "Tan" when you first started playing.
Yeah,
How was that?
That was crazy. Growing up in LA is something different, man. I got a taste of the crazy life. You see a little bit of everything. So I feel like when I finally did become a professional, like I wasn't attracted to the nightlife and all that craziness because I lived it when I was a little bit younger. I grew up in K-Town, and that's where I fell in love with the game. My brother, who's he's 18 months older than me, he started playing soccer. So by default, I had to play soccer. Mom's was like, look, whatever Travis does, Tristan has to do it. I didn't like it. I sucked. I was terrible. But over a period of time, you're playing in the Hispanic leagues. You learn how to, as much as you get it, you learn how to give it. You know what I mean? And then, I just cultivated a love for the game. And over a period of time, I was playing up a couple years. So I feel like I developed a lot faster than other kids of my age. So by the time I got to club soccer, it was like I was ready. I got seen, and I think that accelerated everything for me. So I feel like LA played a pivotal role in just kind of how I approach the game, how I approach life. And, when I think back to Cahuenga, it's just crazy, man. That's like home base. Although I haven't been in LA in a lot of years, like when my mom FaceTimes me, I can tell her exactly where she's at based on the FaceTime. If she's driving, doesn't matter, So LA's home forever. And it did play a big role in me just becoming a professional and who I am today.
No, what I find crazy, shout out to Rich. Rich is the guy I played soccer with, so it was part of your wedding. Yeah. He's the one that told me all this. You taking the bus with him to Jamaican backyard parties?
It wasn't. You know what's crazy? It was like it wasn't even the Jamaican parties. It was like the Salvatrucha parties and stuff.
There you go.
Yeah. We grew up in K-Town, but then over a period of time, like people got priced out, man. So they moved over into South Central. So I just remember growing up, we would have games in Wisset and stuff like that, or at Sherman Oaks. I think I don't even know what Sherman Oaks is called now these days.
It's still Sherman Oaks.
But it's like
Sherman Oaks?
It's still Sherman Oaks. It's like right off the 101, and then there's a complex. Okay, yeah.
The Wisset complex,
there. The Wisset complex, yeah. So we used to play there on Saturdays and Sundays. So we spend the night at his crib, but every Saturday night we went out. Went out to whatever party was down the street at the house. You never really knew who it was, but you got fitted. You had the 7XTs, the pro clubs.
He told me he said you were a South Pole warrior.
Oh,
that's your South Pole with the white Air Forces or the K-Swiss.
I had this South Pole shirt back in the day. Mom's gonna get a lot, so I had one outfit that was fire. It was like red. It has South Pole on there. My boy Marvin, sometimes he'll let us borrow his J's, so everybody was fitted. So I just remember, man, growing up, like we used to go to those parties, and it was crazy because I'm thinking back to it. I'm like, man, I was 14. I'm up in South Central. We're at some house party, and now like you see it in the news, things sometimes things pop off, but it was always a good vibe. And I think we just knew when things were gonna probably go south, and we ducked out at the right time. So shout out to my guy Marvin, his dad, legendary. It's crazy because his dad was a taxi driver, so we used to pull up to the game in the yellow cab, you know what I mean? Or the red van. But it was all love, man. That's where I fell in love with the game, and I grew really close with my boys. Those are lifelong friends. Like you probably talk to Ricky more than I do,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
every time I talk to him, man, it's love. It's like we never missed a beat. You know what I mean? So, yeah, crazy times, man, crazy times.
No, but shout out to Marvin though. Me and Marvin went together at Manual Arts. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
there you go.
That was my
Yeah.
guy. That's my guy in Manual Arts. His son is
Yeah.
killing it for the LA Galaxy Academy. I see
Yep.
him I see him doing his thing. So yeah,
Little
those are my guys too. So
Yeah, man.
me and Marvin we went together because we were good friends at Manual Arts. But Ricky
Yeah.
playing soccer at Lafayette to like from 9 p.m. to 3 in the morning. So like that's my guy too.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Marvin, his dad was just a solid dude, man. And that family, they helped us so much. Because my mom, she couldn't afford anything, and Pops was a hustler, bro. Pops used to make that bread doing the cab driving, and he always looked out for us, And we always, like I said, we used to go there after the games on Saturdays. We used to post up, go to parties, but they were a great family, still are. Same thing with Ricky and the legendary Chepe. He used to tell us some crazy ass stories about him with turbo in his car and stuff like that. But yeah, man.
Before we
that's-
get
that's
into
love.
last question, K-Swiss, all white K-Swiss or Air Force Ones?
Nah, K-Swiss was was back in the day, but if you had some fresh pairs of Air Force Ones, you were in it, but you got to figure out how not to crease it. So we used to have like the long socks, you pull
Oh
it
my
down,
God.
you fold it
Fold 'em
over.
up.
You didn't get, man.
And then you got to walk all duck footed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And if you're really fresh, you had the rubber bands, you tied
On your-
Oh
the
my
ankles.
goodness.
On your jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or,
You gotta
back
twist
in the
up
day,
the
you also,
jeans.
you tied or you could tie your the jeans to the
jeans
front
Into
of
the
the
shoes.
laces, right? Yeah. I remember that
so,
too.
Yeah, Air Forces all the way though.
All
Air Forces,
right.
100%.
That's
funny.
hella
That's
funny.
hilarious, man.
This is giving the vibe that I'm sensing like you must have learned this and seen it from your older brother. You caught on to that because that was definitely my vibe with my brother.
Yeah.
Anything he did, I would do. I would show up to elementary school with like one rubber band on my jeans, and they were like halfway, and then the other one's all the way down. I looked crazy, but my brother was doing it. Yeah, my brother was doing this. I have a picture from elementary school, like the group photo, and I'm in the front looking all nerdy with my rubber bands on my jeans,
that was a
representing.
vibe back then. That was a vibe. That was a vibe.
Yeah, if you know,
Nah,
you
know
know.
what? To be honest, it was everybody that dressed like that. My brother, like Marvin and Ricky used to say we had no gear and blah blah blah. So nah, man, that was what was in. You know what I mean? So, and I definitely feel like when you lived in South Central, what you wore was more important. I went to school out in the valley, so it was kind of important, but not really. Everybody was in like the Abercrombie and Fitch and stuff like that, and then it's just a different culture. So yeah, I don't know if I got it from my brother, just being around, the hood a little bit.
Shout out to Burlington Coat Factory.
Yeah.
That was the spot. Yeah.
Shout out to Ricky. 'Cause
Nah,
me and Ricky were talking all this day. Like Tristan's coming on. I know you're part of his wedding. Let me know some embarrassing stories right now.
You're like, give me the tea.
Give me
Yeah,
the tea.
It was chill. It was a chill wedding, to be honest with you. It was 25 people. That tells you how close me and Ricky are, because like we didn't really like over the years. You're busy. Ricky's living his life. I'm living mine. But as soon as I knew that I was getting married, I was like, all right, Travis, best man, Ricky, right up there. So that's family. That's family right there.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that you said that because, you grew up the way you grew up, by the time you made it to the Galaxy and you're playing in LA, the whole party scene, you were kind of partied out of it. Were you kind of sending recommendations to your teammates? Like what was the vibe like when you were there? Were they looking at you? I know you were the young kid on the team, but what was that like?
Don't get me wrong. I still went out. I had a good time. But it was different. You know what I mean? Ironically, I was one of the dudes that I was always comfortable with people. You know what I mean? So I can have a conversation, especially with women. It's not that complicated, you know? So I felt like although I was the youngest guy, there were a lot of times where I'm breaking the ice with a group of girls, blah blah, bring the guys over and just slide out. You know what I mean? I got into some clubs that I probably shouldn't have got into at the age I was at. But also I just felt like I grew up a lot faster. So, you know, even though I had like the baby face, I didn't have facial hair. I actually shaved the other day. But you know, I was comfortable with people. So I was the connector, you know what I mean? And I always told guys like when they got traded to LA, I was like, look, do not live by the beach. Don't get trapped by the beach. Everybody wants to go there. I was like, that's not where it's at. You're going to spend most of your time coming out to West Hollywood, being in the clubs and stuff like that. So get you a little place that's not too far. The commute back then, like I used to live in like Hancock Park. So the commute back then was maybe 30 minutes to the stadium. Now it's crazy. But it wasn't bad, you know. So I would definitely give them recommendations about what to do, where to go, and stuff like that. But it's a whole different world, you know. It's a whole different world for sure.
Who were your vets? Because my good friend Edwin Rivas, he got drafted into Toronto FC. His vet was Josie Altidore, and he showed him the ropes. Exactly. So
that's all you have to say.
The vets, when I think back, I mean, Edson Buttle was there.
Ooh,
That was a time when Edson was really taking off. You know, I think when Ruud Gullit came to the Galaxy, he's a striker. You know what I mean? So he really helped Edson. Edson's career at that point, not to say he didn't have a great one prior to that, but there was something that was happening. You know, he started banging in goals left and right. I can see when he started to make his paper, you know, the car got better, you know, everything got better. But to be honest with you, like I was alone. I was a lone soldier for the most of the time, just because of my age. Like a lot of guys were going out. I couldn't really do everything other guys were doing. You know what I mean? So it was like I would train. Most of the time, I would go right back home. I used to carpool with Sean Franklin, so every once in a while we used to chill. Sean was smart, but Sean is kind of, you know, he went to CSUN, so I feel like he knew game early on, so he didn't live out by the beach. He lived in Hancock Park as well. So, but I spent a lot of time with my people, to be honest with you. But there were a lot of older heads in the locker room that were dope, that I got on really well with, but I wouldn't say that I partied with them too much. When we were out on the road, that was a different story. But when I was in LA, I was with my people most of the time.
Yeah.
So if you were with Sean Franklin, that means you were with his right-hand man, Kri. Kri is a wild boy. That's my guy,
exactly.
too.
Exactly. So, and that's the thing, like it's such a small world. Like I didn't even know you knew Ricky, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like if you live in LA, if you grew up in LA, it's like
Played
1 or
soccer,
2 degrees
yeah.
of separation. Exactly. There's only so many people once you get to a certain level, you know? So, you know, Sean used to be out, you know, I used to be out with Sean every once in a while, but I again, like I grew up there. So I know where the traps are. I know what you know what you should and shouldn't be doing. And to be honest with you, I think by time I hit 18, 19, like the club got boring. You know what I mean? It's like after a while you start seeing the same people and you start realizing, okay, you know what? They ain't got nothing else going on in their life. Right? And the reality is they want to spend time with you because you elevate their profile, which is cool. A lot of them were great people, but you know, it wasn't the place for me and what I was trying to do, or it wasn't conducive to what I was trying to do in my career, you know?
Yeah. And then, I mean, you mentioned you're kind of like a lone wolf a lot. I was just watching, you know, on your YouTube channel, you posted a video about asking questions and how 2026 is the year you're gonna start asking more questions because looking back at in your playing days, you were around, you know, you mentioned Edson Buttle, even like a coach like Ruud Gullit or Landon Donovan, Greg Berhalter, like all these kind of, you know, well-established soccer names. And you kind of regretted that you didn't ask as many questions as maybe now with your wisdom you would have. What are some of those questions that you would have asked those guys? And how are you going to kind of use that and as you transition into this next part of your career, like how are you going to kind of push that?
How do you do it? You know what I mean? Like just being straight up with people and like I think about it, it's like at the time Landon was considered probably the best player US soccer has ever produced, and it's not like those guys were closed off or anything, but there was an element of, like these people are so different from me. You know what I mean? I didn't grow up with people like them. How do I go and ask for help? I'm a pro. I'm supposed to know this. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't know, and part of it is being young and immature and not wanting to seem like I didn't know the answers. But like, I wish I would have just pulled him aside, like, hey, can you teach me to see what you see? Like, why are you so tactically astute? How do you know what's going to happen before it happens? And growing up, like when I was growing up, you play soccer, but ain't nobody talking about tactics. None of that. It's like you got a feel for the game, and that's how you developed. You just went out and played. So there was that element of my game that was missing. I remember a lot of times Bruce would just be like, yeah, Tristan, you need to be here when the ball's here. And that's what I knew. Like, okay, ball's there, I need to be there. But I didn't really understand why I needed to be there. So in a lot of ways, if you joysticked me, I knew what to do, but I didn't have a real understanding of the game. So I wish I spoke to Landon. I wish I spoke to Edson. I wish I spoke to Eddie Lewis, Chris Klein, Kobe Jones. I mean, and there's so many high profile players that came to the club and was training with the club that nobody ever saw or knew about. Like if I remember correctly, I think Frank Lampard pulled up at one point or another. You know what I mean? So it's just asking and being unapologetic about it. And to be fair, there's been a couple guys like Omar Gonzalez, like he soaked up every bit of knowledge that those guys were giving out, and he was right next to Greg. And Greg, if you played with Greg, you gonna get some coaching for sure. You know what I mean? So I just wish I asked everything that I wanted to ask, and those guys were in positions that I wanted to be in, and I'm sure they wanted to help me, and even Bruce, but again, like I think I was just too prideful. My family's from Jamaica, and that's kind of a thing with us. We don't want to act like we don't know. So just little things like that. And then even now, breaking into the media space, I'm around everybody that's in the media space. And the truth is just picking up the phone and just asking questions like, hey, I see you doing your thing on YouTube. How do you do it? You know what I mean? Or how did you break into broadcasting? Reaching out to old connections like my old agent. Hey, can you set me up with a little opportunity? You know what I'm saying? So it's just asking for help, man. And that's come with age, just being humble enough to understand that I don't know what I don't know, and it's okay. And we're all here to help each other, and that's what it's about. You just got to ask for help, man.
Yeah.
As you were building your career as a professional soccer player, did you envision yourself being in the media space, or what did that look like for you as you were building your rapport?
Man, I thought I was gonna play at Manchester United.
Man, here I
Hey, that's
come.
a great team. That's a great team.
I was not thinking about it, to be honest with you. Like I dabbled in a little bit of modeling. I thought I might have a little bit of a side career with that, which I did, to be fair. But that's another thing. Like you're playing the game, and the way I grew up was like single-mindedness, plan A, there's no plan B. You know what I mean? You throw all your eggs in that basket. So like my big vision was like, all right, cool. I'm going to be on the Galaxy. Eventually, I'm going to make my way onto the U.S. national team, and then from there, I'm going to get a deal to go elsewhere, and everything is going to unfold from there. I started getting tattoos early. I was like, I don't need a job. Like I remember my brother was like, bro, you sure you want to get a tattoo on your hand? Like first one, I was like, yeah, bro, I'm doing this until I'm like 38, and shit. I figured that out that wasn't the case. But no, one thing that kind of I would say gave me an indication that media was probably going to be something I stepped into was I took a little bit of acting classes when I was younger. And that gave me the confidence to be in front of people and speak to people, be in front of cameras. And I distinctly remember when I first got signed and I was talking to reporters and stuff like that. Afterwards, they were like, you speak really well. You know, like you're confident, you're comfortable, and there's a lot of guys that are much older and have been in the league, and they're not as comfortable as you are. You know, so that there's been little signs that made me feel like, okay, this could be a career path. And then as I grew older, I just realized I enjoy telling stories and I enjoy hearing stories. And I was like, I got to a point in my career where I felt like my voice wasn't, or my side of the story wasn't being told. And you hear the Michael Jordans, you hear all the big players, you know their stories, but I just didn't hear anybody else, you know. So I felt like there was a need for that, and that's why I originally started my podcast, to help tell those stories of people who probably aren't getting looked at. And I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and that's what I've been doing since.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you know, the media pipeline from athlete to media pipeline is pretty like well traversed now, especially with social media. You see even players that are still playing, like currently active players, are having their own podcasts. Like Kristen Press, when she's still playing with Angel City FC, was doing a weekly podcast with her partner Tobin Heath, and they were kind of breaking down like the last couple weeks, like what was going on in the locker room. Like in the NBA, a bunch of NBA players are doing it. Had social media been around, do you think that would have been a viable option for you? Like, or were you so single-minded that there was like zero distractions? Because there's like two schools of thought to that, you know?
Yeah. To be fair, when I signed, I was encouraged to document everything. You know, that was a thought process, but that's in '08. YouTube wasn't YouTube, you know what I mean? And I was one of those guys where I was like, man, you know, I haven't made a name for myself. I'm gonna be this kid walking around with a camera. You know, how is Bruce gonna be? What is he gonna think about that? What are the guys gonna think about that? You know, so I was hesitant to do it, and I didn't do it. If social media, like if I signed my homegrown deal today, I'm telling you, I would have had a full-time videographer following me around and documenting everything, obviously, because I know what YouTube is now. But even more so, now that I got kids, I think it would have been so dope for them to be able to just turn on the TV and look back and see, yo, this was Pops when he was 18, he was young, he was, you know, this is when he met moms and stuff like that. And it's a viable business now, you know? So I feel like if I could do it again, I definitely would have. But, you know, I think it's more accepted now. You know, there's a business behind it. I think that coaches and organizations are open-minded, and they recognize the value now. You know, if a player comes in and has 1 million followers, like, yeah, if he can play, that certainly is a prerequisite to everything. But like, if you have a following, marketing wise, it puts the club in a good position, you know? So I think the game is just completely different now. You know, kids are coming in, they got 50, 60,000 followers before they even did anything, you know? So, but kudos to them, because they're gonna be in position to win long term, because I think that's what you need to do, you know? So I don't know. I wish I would have done it sooner, but at the same time, like, everything happens for a reason. And I think if I did do it sooner, it wasn't as accepted. It probably would have been frowned upon, and I would have gotten kicked out of LA a lot sooner than I actually did. So
yeah. I mean, even today, it's still kind of like there's still kind of like a whole distraction side of it that people, you know, especially the old school guys are like, man, you better put that away. This is business. Like we gotta stick to this. I'm sure even, you know, like a decade ago that would have been even like wilder, like and the vets.
But times change. You know what I mean? It's completely different now, and I think I've now become that older guy that's like, yo, man, back in my day, like, we didn't do things like that. You know what I mean? But like that's the reality. Time changes, and we got to get with the program. You know what I mean? Like, all these new dances, they're not for me, but I was once upon a time that kid. But I think people recognize it now, and they hesitantly or reluctantly accept it, because that's just the way things are now, you know?
It's not even about we can't do the dances no more. It's because our dances, messed up our knees, the stanky leg.
The jerkin.
Some might say they were
a pin
Cat
drop,
daddy.
cat daddy pin drops, like those require
Shuffling.
like very limber
These
ACLs.
kids wouldn't get it.
you
This
know?
kid's gonna
You
get
gotta
it.
be doing that functional fitness to be able to do that.
Exactly.
Stuff, man.
Yeah.
Right.
We
Even
gotta
with like
dude,
shuffling, there
that
was
should-
like spectrums of shuffling, like hardcore, medium, you know, like
we got to start a weekly mobility class.
Yes.
To get back to
100%.
the dance move. So this is Project Pin Drop 2026.
There we go.
So where if you're over 30 and you're trying to pin drop, come drop in 45 minutes, or not even 45 minutes, 25, 30 minutes of mobility. Tap in, tap out. You'll by the
warm
end of the
up.
year, you'll be hitting pin
Right.
drops.
So
That's
this
going
will
to
be
be
the
our
new
that's number.
You
generation.
gotta warm up before you go to the club these days.
Exactly.
This weekend we went out as a team. I was shuffling. I was battling somebody. Now my ankle hurts. Like I can't be doing this no
Nah,
more.
you got.
Back to-
Hey, if you're battling somebody right now, you gotta take a good look at
Right.
yourself. What's going on?
right. Do some reflection, Julio. Back to what you were saying though.
Drinks are flowing.
I think that's gonna be the new generation of Zumba classes. It's pin drop classes.
Oh, new Zumba instead of Zumba.
It's pin drop.
what was the one, Tybo? Like
Tybo, Tybo,
Yeah.
Zumba, and then now the next generation, you're gonna see like senior homes in like
Pin drop.
2050, and there's gonna be like like senior citizens doing some
You're just
cat
gonna hear
daddy.
you're a jerk. I know.
Well, they can do the cat daddy in the wheelchair.
Right. Literally. You
Just
see, we
reminding
were.
us we're getting old.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Cat Daddy was preparing us for our future.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it'll be
Seriously.
mobile.
That is
That's
funny.
future forward thinking. But anyways,
Just talking about like now like the accessibility that soccer has, because when you started playing, there was a reserve league. Now the reserve league is no more. They have that MLS Next, LA Galaxy 2, LAFC 2. How do you see that differ? Like, do you think it's good for the younger kids to have like have that option?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even when I first signed, I think it had to have been maybe a month or 2 months after my signing that they got rid of the reserve league. So as a 18-year-old kid coming into the league and not really having any real way to play unless you were on the first team every week, like it was hard. You know what I mean? Like it was really sink or swim. And now you see kids get loaned out, that's quite normal. But again, like it wasn't normal during my time. So now like you see there's an actual pipeline. You can have a 14-year-old kid that's extremely talented, and they'll just move them up to the 16s or something like that, get some games, help them develop, and you can go up and down. So it is great. I selfishly wish that was in place when I was growing up. But at the same time, I feel like maybe my success it happened a lot faster because my back was against the wall, and I was like, yo, if I signed a deal, I can't go back to college. There's no NIL. There's none of that. Like, this has got to work. You know what I mean? Like, families depending on me to be successful. But what they have now, it's amazing, honestly. So as much as I wish this was in place when I was growing up, like, I'm happy to see how the league has grown with respect to the academy system. I think the talent is a lot better. I've always said back in the day that, like, for me, I remember traveling around the world when I was like 14, and I realized early on, like, okay, I can hang. I was at Corinthians. I was like, okay, 14, like, I'm still a baller here. You know what I mean? But then that's when the gap happens. Like, once you get into high school, going into college, there's a huge drop off because of the amount of time you're spending on the field. Whereas now it's like you got kids that are 15, 16, 17 playing for MLS academies. They're playing against, Manchester United's, Real Madrid's, all these big academies, and they're beating them, and you got American kids going into Europe and they're doing the damn thing. So that's a testament to the growth of the academy. I think the coaching is getting better as well. One thing I would love to see is just not everyone playing a 4-3-3 all the time. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, Pep is great, but I think he also kind of ruined the game to a certain to a certain degree because everybody's trying to play the same way. So it's like what each other are gonna do. So it just changes things. But the academy is completely different now, and the players are completely different. And as an American supporter, I'm happy to see Americans go abroad because at the end of the day, I think it makes the game more attractive to minorities in our country. And I think that's where there's untapped potential, and when kids see that it's a viable career path and there's some bread in it, they're going to pursue it. And I think that's where we're going to start seeing American soccer change, when we start getting the LeBrons and the Steph Currys and people like that playing our game, the best game in the world. So I think the future's bright, but it's still going to take some time for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk about the growth of the league, of MLS specifically, a lot, and just how far it's come, even in in the last 10 years. Where do you see, like, do you think the attraction to maybe more minority players, is that the biggest room for growth in the league? What do you see as like the next phase for MLS in terms of growth?
Honestly, I think the biggest challenge we're going to have is keeping our young players, because the best young players are going abroad, which it's hard to blame them for doing. You know what I mean? Like, we sit down, we wake up in the morning and we're watching the EPL. The Premier League. We're watching La Liga. We're watching Bundesliga and stuff like that. So if one of those clubs comes and scouts you, like, the chances are you're gonna go. You know what I mean? Because it's foreign, it's attractive. But I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. You can see that we're attracting a lot of younger talent from other countries. So our country is still a desirable place for people to live. But our young talent, we're going to have to figure out a way to stay competitive, how to keep them here, whether that be with better deals, better the football getting better. But it's a battle. We got a long way to go before we are competitive with a Premier League club. And when I say that, I mean, like, a kid's gonna have an option between going to maybe a Manchester United, or even no disrespect to like Bournemouth or Burnley or something like that, but they should be able to look at our league and say, what is probably better for my development, my profile, and my long-term, financial viability to stay in the country, play for an MLS club, and then maybe down the road, a couple years, I'll go there and then go make some bread in Turkey or Saudi. But I think the biggest problem or the biggest challenge is going to be keeping our young players.
But I don't know I don't know what club you play for, but for every Tristan that grew up playing in the hood, there's a lot of great players in these hoods that they just don't get a chance. Because my youngest brother played for Real SoCal, the team under you that was 3 times national champs. It used to take my dad. My dad had to drive an hour and a half Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Oaks.
Yeah, from LA to Thousand Oaks. Even Marvin played off of DeSoto for, I forgot the team's name. So another one, Oscar Sorto, his dad was another guy from the same neighborhood. Like, it's just hard for this talented kids from inner cities to find good clubs, because every good club in SoCal, it's not near us. It's always a 45-minute to hour drive, and some of these parents are working 12-hour shifts, so it's hard to even take them to these practices.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna. I feel conflicted about that, to be honest with you, because my grind was like, the only reason I am where I am is because I used to take the train from Koreatown all the way to Pacoima every day.
Arsenal?
So it was just a train. That's
no, I'm saying, what
where,
club team? What club team did you play for?
Initially I was with North Valley Fusion. That's when I first started playing club soccer. I played there for, I think, like a year, maybe a year and a half, and then I stepped away from it and I was traveling, and that's when I started going to Brazil, and then I went to Holland, then I went to England and stuff like that. And then when I came back, I played for they're called, at the time they were called Barcelona, and now they're Total Football Academy. So Paul and those guys. Sharif was one of the coaches. He was the coach for the younger teams. I was with Paul, the owner of the club, the founder of the club, his son was on our team. So if I remember correctly, the coach's name was Alex. I think like Alex Lemos or something like that. But that's where I spent a decent amount of time. I did like nationals with them, and that's when I felt like I was actually playing club soccer, you know. But like for me, I just had to grind. You know what I mean? Like yeah, it was definitely hard. My mom didn't even drive, you know, so like we relied on other people maybe picking us up at the train station, or again, like, you know, I had to take the red line from Western up to Vermont, transfer, go from Vermont all the way up to the orange. Is it the orange line? You know, the outdoor bus now? I forgot what
That's the
it's
orange.
called.
That's the orange line of the valley. That'll take you
Yeah.
like all the way to
So
North
you get it
Hollywood.
at North
Yeah, yeah,
Hollywood, and then you
yeah.
take it all the way to like Balboa Park, right next to Birmingham High
Yep,
School and stuff
yep,
like
yep,
that.
yep.
So like I feel for parents, you know, like especially as a parent now, there's so many nuances and complexities. Like club soccer is expensive, man. It really is expensive, and to be honest with you, like sometimes I'm not gonna say where, but sometimes I go out to a club soccer training. I'm like, y'all are paying for this?
Yeah.
Like this
Right.
is terrible. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's expensive. A lot of times we're driving 45 plus minutes to an hour just because we live in LA. Everything is 45 to an
Yep.
hour anyway, as it is. So it's hard, but at the same time, like I think anything that you're working towards that you really want is gonna be hard, you know? So like I gotta give my hats off to parents who really sacrifice a lot for to put their kids in a position to succeed. But I think it's one of those things where it's I think that's one of those things where it's like I would much rather them complain about that being hard because life is much harder if you don't make it in
Definitely.
soccer.
Yeah.
Or just in general, if you don't learn certain life skills, man, it's we know it. Like if my mom is, you know, I'm first generation American. You know, she comes from Jamaica. Life is hard there. You know what I'm saying? Life is hard in Mexico. Life is hard in Salvador. Life is hard all over the world outside of the US for the most part. So if that's one of those things that is the hardest thing we're experiencing, like for by all means, like I'm happy that that was the only thing I had to worry about, you know?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, listen, Tristan, we're running low on time, and I know it's late on the East Coast, but I wanted to get this in before we wrap up. Obviously, it's a World Cup year,
Yeah.
and I wanted to get your thoughts on the current squad, the current men's national team squad, and what your realistic expectations are for this tournament. And this kind of goes into that conversation where, you know, we talk about development and how the young players are funneling into the national team system now. But where do you see as like a realistic expectation for this current team?
I just want to get out of the group, to be honest with you. Like, I think it's so important with it being here, that we get out of the group, we play well, and then from there we see what happened. You know, I think this is I know a lot of former players and pundits are saying like it's their responsibility to push the game forward in the country, and there's a lot of animosity between former players and current players, and rightly so. I see both sides of the argument, but there is a real responsibility and opportunity to grow the game in the country. I think we have the I don't know if I would say unfortunate, you know, pleasure of trying to one up what we did in '94 with how big of a spectacle it was. It's still the most successful World Cup, if I'm not mistaken, to
Yep, yep.
date. You know, it's a great opportunity for people to fall in love with the game here. You know, I think I saw some the other day that said soccer has replaced baseball as the
Yep.
third
Yes.
Yep.
most popular sport in the country. Um, and truthfully, like I think the only thing that is stopping us from being second and first place is one, the money that players are making, two, the lifestyles that they're living, and three, the marketing. And obviously four, the quality of the game. Like people have to want to after they see the US perform in the World Cup, they're gonna want to watch the MLS. And the soccer has to be good. It has to be something that people want to turn into or tune into on a weekend evening. You know what I mean? So it's a great opportunity. I hope we get out of the group stage. I have no expectations To be honest with you, I think that's the quickest way to feel disappointed. I think we've moved from being a quote unquote young team with a lot of potential to a team now that has to perform. You know, I said I don't have any expectations, but at the same time, like when we're at the World Cup and we're going toe to toe with England, I'm like, you know, we know we're right there. You know, so we
they haven't beat us yet.
Haven't beat us in the
They
World
haven't
Cup
beat us yet in the World Cup.
Beat us yet. You know what I mean? We got to get out of the group. That's absolutely mandatory. So I hope we get out of the group. I hope we play attractive football. I hope we highlight personalities. I hope that we accept people's uniqueness. You know what I mean? Like Christian Pulisic is different from Weston McKennie and Timothy Weah. Like let's celebrate their individuality and recognize that when we do that, there's going to be kids from all different walks of life that identify with this player, identify with that player. And again, it's going to ultimately serve us well in the long run. So let's just hope and pray we get out of the group, we play good soccer, and we host a damn good tournament, and we don't have any nonsense going on in the streets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Eric Ronaldo said we can win it all. Did you see that? I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, look, we can't win it all. We can't. Let's be honest. We're not there. As Americans, I think we pride ourselves. Like I want the players to believe that. By all means, you know, we've played against Brazil. You know what I mean? It's not like any country that we're gonna play. It's not like we're gonna be, you know, oh my God, we're in unfamiliar territory per se. But when you get out onto the field, you got to win. You know what I mean? That's a whole another ball game. So, you know, I like Eric. I don't think that we can win it, but hey, I respect him for saying that, you know?
Listen, the way you answered that question, you made me believe. So shout out to you for that.
No, that's the thing. And I feel like that's the one thing that's missing though. Like when I was growing up, man, like I used to tune into men's national team games and like I felt like I had a real sense of pride and connection to the team. It was in a different space, granted, you know, and it was like the rivalry with Mexico when we first started winning 2-0, you know what I mean? Like I remember that Beasley corner when we scored, like there was this pride and you saw, you know, the fight and the desire and the real rivalry. Whereas now that's I feel like we go into the game and we kind of expect to win. You know what I mean? Or winning is not that big of a deal anymore. You know what I mean? And that's a byproduct of what we've done in the past. I do think players have different struggles now. You know, they're making way more paper than any of the players prior have made. Their lives are completely different. We will never understand what that's like. But, you know, I want them to inspire us again, you know, and that's not to say that we don't feel as inspired, but, you know, it's just different. You know, it's different. I think people need to fall in love with the national team again. And once we do that, that's going to change a lot of things for us.
100%.
Yeah. We're like, this national team is so talented, but sometimes I want to go back to that 2010 where we were not as talented, but just fight for
dogs.
every ball. Just dogs, yeah, like dogs.
You know
and I think that's what we're
dogs.
missing. We're missing winning ugly games. We want to win everything at a touch here, tiki-taka. Nah, throw a long ball from time to time. And let's just figure it out. Let's just battle it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard thing because it's like, you know, you obviously have like I got my B license. I was entrenched in coaching and stuff like that. So I understand what U.S. soccer is trying to do. And part of us growing as a nation is to have a unified way of thinking. How do we want to play? What's our identity? And that's why we love Spain. That's why we love, well, I love my Spanish people, but that's why we love Brazil. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they play a certain way, you know that when you see Brazil, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 players with flair. You know what I'm saying? There's a way that they play. And even now, like, I know Brazilians that hate the national team right now because it's gotten it's more European and they feel like some of the players don't represent the nation. You know what I mean? So I get why we're playing the way we're playing. I think the missing piece is again we just want to see a little you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like we tend to see it from guys that are MLS based players that step into the roster full of European players playing at big clubs. They have that underdog mentality within the group, and that's not to say, I will say that when, we were in the last World Cup, we did kind of have an underdog mentality going up against England. So you saw that cohesiveness, you saw that desire, but I think across the board, I think even if you just make it seem like you really, that'll go a long way, because that's what we identify with Americans, the underdog story, fighting hard, rags to riches, and I think that's what we want to see more of. At least I do.
We need more Kelly Lacostas that first ones to run into to NEBS.
Yeah, 100%.
Bring Jimmy Conrad back on the team. That guy will throw his head anywhere,
Yeah. All right, listen, Tristan. Plug where we can find you. I know you got the YouTube channel pumping, MLSPA podcast going. Share anything that the people listening can find you at.
Yeah, no, just follow me on IG. It's just first and last name. Same thing on YouTube. Same thing on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it these days. Although I don't play around with X anymore. It's a little
wow,
that's weird.
Wild.
Yeah.
It's wild over
weird
there.
Stuff
Yeah, for sure.
And Facebook too. I don't.
Facebook is crazy too. Facebook's like 75% AI, dude. Like that's not. It's not a real place anymore.
Exactly. So IG, YouTube. That's where I'm hanging out the most. So just Tristan Bowen on there.
All right. Listen, Tristan, always a pleasure talking to you. I feel like that time flew by. Could have spent another hour here with you, but I know you got stuff to do, so we'll let you go. But whenever you're out here again, we'd love to link back up. So let's definitely stay in touch, man.
Y'all are family, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. All right. This has been another episode of the Urban Pitch Podcast, the beautiful game of life, part of the Believe Network. For Tristan Bowen, Julio Monteroso, Bridget Flores, I'm Ramsey Abushala. We'll see you next week.